There we go. Okay, we currently have 19 participants. Good morning and welcome to the CTE House Bill 5 webinar here at Region 10. This morning we'll be going over specifics for the House Bill 5 CTE portion of the endorsements. So we're going to really be talking about 3 of the endorsements versus all 5. I will touch on the other 2, which are fine arts and multidisciplinary, but I'm going to spend the majority of our time speaking about and to the 3 major endorsements that deal with career and technical education. Give me 1 second here. I want to see what we have participant-wise. So see, we have 17 viewers. Okay. So let's go ahead and get started, ladies and gentlemen. So today we will review Chapter 7413 of the Texas Administrative Code. From now on, I'll use TAC to discuss Texas Administrative Code. And we're going to learn about endorsements. Let's talk about the top 10% rule first. I like to share this with everyone involved. In order for a student to be considered in the top 10%, that student must earn the DLA, which is the Distinguished Level of Achievement. And this is the rule of the law, which allows for you to see where that's spoken to right here. And that's a 51803, and it's automatic admission to all institutions, save UT, which has a specific rule if you look for, I think it's top 7%. The applicant or graduated from a public or private high school in the state accredited by a generally recognized accrediting organization or from a high school operated by the United States Department of Defense. The applicant successfully completed at a public high school the curriculum requirements established under Section 2805 for the Distinguished Level of Achievement under the Foundation's high school graduation plan. So if you have students that are going to be working towards their top 10%, they also have to have that DLA, which, as we know, is an endorsement for sciences, for maths, to include Algebra 2. Algebra 2 is the caveat there. Now, the prerequisite rule, I'm going to show you this as well. A lot of times we run into classes we want to teach, but we do not have the prerequisite met. And or we worry that the prerequisite is not going to be met. So if we look at 7411J, and that comes directly out of the Texas Administrative Code's guidance for what is House Bill 5 Foundations. And it says a student may not be enrolled in a course that has a required prerequisite unless. And if we look at number 2, it's one of the ways districts can control that. It says that the student has demonstrated equivalent knowledge as determined by the school district. One example of that we have dealt with this year is specific to business English. Business English is an English 4/CTE for credit class. It's the only CTE course that allows you to earn both CTE credit and to earn core credit for English level 4. But the current prerequisites stated in the TEKS for that course, the prerequisites they don't say required or recommended, it just says prerequisites. And it states English 3 and touch data systems. Well, some schools feel that their students have the equivalent knowledge, and that's a district level decision, to meet that requirement for touch data systems without taking the class. If that is the case, you could utilize Rule J2 for the Texas Administrative Code 7411. So, I wanted to use this schematic to help basically to kind of talk about just House Bill 5 in general. I like to break it down into these 3 categories. I think it makes it a little simpler. In order for a child or a student to graduate in our system with everything needed to be considered a distinguished graduate, we have the foundations plan, which is your basic 22 hours, followed by the endorsements. They select 1 of 5 endorsements to earn. And then in order to earn the distinguished level of achievement, they need 1 of the endorsements. They need to have 4 credits in science and 4 credits in math to include Algebra 2. Now, to earn any endorsement, a student has to have the 22 hours, plus they have to have an additional math and an additional science. And we'll talk about that rule because it's taken directly from Chapter 7413 of the Texas Administrative Code. Now, according to the Texas Administrative Code, Chapter 7413, a student shall specify in writing an endorsement the student intends to earn upon entering grade 9. A district shall permit a student to enroll in courses under more than one endorsement before that student's junior year and to choose at any time to earn an endorsement other than the endorsement that the student previously indicated. Now, I'll stop right there and I understand that usually gets a little bit of, that gets some eyebrows raised. And one of the problems we see, or one of the concerns we have from districts, is master scheduling, and we truly understand, and so does the state of Texas. Even if a student walks in today and changes their endorsement, say from STEM to public services, that doesn't require an immediate change of schedule. You would change the schedule at the first available time frame that would actually benefit both the student and the district. The student consideration is always first, but if it's not going to happen in the spring semester, it could occur at the beginning of next school year. That is a district level decision. But I wanted you to put you at ease that you don't have to immediately go and change their master schedule. You could work on that. Any changes to the master schedule, or any student that's going to change their endorsement, I highly recommend that you get a parent signature on that, that they've updated the PGP, the personal graduation plan. And there will be an adjustment to the end result of what the students' far-reaching post-secondary goals would be as well. And back to where we were at, this section does not entitle a student to remain enrolled to earn more than 26 credits. A student must earn at least 26 credits to earn an endorsement. And it states a school district may define advanced courses and determine a coherent sequence of courses for an endorsement area, provided that prerequisites in chapters 110 through 118, 126, 127, and 130 of this title are followed. So when we talk about those endorsements, the fourth math requirement, if we look at chapter 7413E, and it states right here, it says to earn an endorsement, a student must demonstrate proficiency in the following: the curriculum requirements for the Foundation's high school graduation plan as defined by 7412 of the Texas Administrative Code. And then under what is 7413.2 is where we stipulate a fourth credit in mathematics. Now, these are just a few examples. There are more math classes that follow all the way down to about the letter N, if not more, when we pull the actual 7413 or 7412. A fourth credit in mathematics that may be selected from one full credit or a combination of 2 half credits from 2 different courses, subject to prerequisite requirements from the following courses. So Algebra 2, I really want to point out that even though there is that rule that you can, from one full credit or a combination of 2 half credits, be very careful in doing that with Algebra 2, because if a student doesn't gain Algebra 2 sections A and B, or semesters first and second semester credit for a full credit in Algebra 2, they would not be eligible for the top 10% or the DLA, the Distinguished Level of Achievement. So I caution you not to mix Algebra 2 unless it's for the best benefit of the student who would not be actively looking to gain top 10% or a Distinguished Level of Achievement. Let's talk about science. 7413 number 5, an additional credit in science that may be selected from one full credit or a combination of 2 half credits from 2 different courses, subject to prerequisite requirements from the following courses. Now, these are just a few. There are more that follow. I just use this as an example for the slide. Chemistry, physics, aquatic science, astronomy. Once again, so for a student to earn an endorsement, they have to have the 22 hours, they have to meet the basic 22-hour plan. Then they have to have 4 additional credits. They also have to have an additional math that is a 4th level math, it's Algebra 2 or higher. And they have to have a 4th level science. Now, as we move forward here, let's get into the meat and potatoes of endorsements. Let's talk about the double dip for allowances. And I don't know of any other way to explain that, but I'm going to go back a few slides from number 9 here. So the double dip rule is this: if a student earns anything over here, it can be used to satisfy anything over here. So if you have a student that earns in their 5 electives, they earned 4 CTE classes, not only would it satisfy classes for the 5 electives, it would also satisfy classes for an endorsement. If they're earning science credits that can be used in the STEM endorsement, that's allowable. So that is the double dip rule. Let's go back to slide 9. Okay. And it says a course completed as part of the set of 4 courses needed to satisfy an endorsement requirement may also satisfy the requirements under 7412. So that's where you find the rule speaking to what we call the double dip rule, which is housed under 7413 G. So $74.13. We're going to be working off of Chapter 74.13, specifically from the Texas Administrative Code. I've pulled information directly from there. Now, what I've done is I've named the options for STEM. There's a total of 5 options, and we're going to go over each one, and I'm going to speak to each one in a little bit of detail here. The first option, when you earn a science, technology, engineering, and mathematics STEM endorsement, a student may earn that endorsement. Of course, they have to have Algebra 2, chemistry, and physics or principles of technology. Now, on a side note, physics and principles of technology cannot be used together. You can take either or. The TEKs are so closely aligned from physics and principles of technology, they are considered the same class. So if you have a student who's on the STEM endorsement pathway, they can take physics or they can take principles of technology. Do not mix and mingle those classes, please. Also note that principles of technology is a CTE course versus physics is a standard science course. Principles of technology can be used for both a science credit and a CTE credit, and it draws additional funding for your campus. If you need more detail on the funding source, please contact me. That usually equals somewhere between $250 to $300 for the year per student. Basically, it's based off of FTEs, which is considered a full-time equivalent seat. So the easy math is just to estimate somewhere between $250 to $300 per student that you would put into a CTE class is what additional funding the district gets. I can give you specific estimates on funding if you contact me. Now, a coherent sequence of courses of 4 or more credits in career and technical education that consist of at least 2 courses from the same career cluster. From this point forward, anytime we use the term cluster, replace it with chapter. It is simply the 16 chapters in Chapter 130 that cover the different CTE classes. There are a total of 17 chapters, counting Chapter 127, or 17 areas, counting Chapter 127, which is where we go to for our problem-based learning and career prep and practicum. So the courses may be selected from Chapter 130 of this title relating to the text essential knowledge and skills. I have links right here. These are actual link to the TEA website. And then Chapter 127 and CTE Innovative courses approved by the Commissioner of Education. The final course in the sequence must be selected from Chapter 130, Subchapter O of this title. So what we can do here is we can take 4 CTE classes. You could take, for the purposes of this, based off this sentence right here, the final course in the sequence must be selected from Chapter 130, Subchapter O. Means that you could utilize inside this BIM, Business English, Business Math, Financial Math, Agriculture Math, and Natural Resources. There are a whole list of core classes that you can use for both core and utilize for CTE options. It's not the only ones, but there are a few. There are a total of over 240 current CTE classes that we have inside of our CO22 PEIMS data standards. So when we look at that, that gives you a whole host of classes that could fall in this range because they only have to meet this sentence. 4 or more credits in career and technical education that consist of at least 2 courses in the same career cluster and at least 1 advanced course. The advanced courses are determined by the district, not TEA. So if you call TEA and say, could you give me a list of advanced CTE courses? They do have a list for financial purposes, but not for graduation purposes. So for the House Bill 5 Foundation's endorsement plan, your district determines the advanced courses, through prerequisites established by the district themselves. So with that being said, if we click on subchapter O, it'll take us right there. It'll take you over to subchapter O, the science, technology, engineering, and math. So one of your classes would have to come out of here. And this houses all of your CTE classes that are also STEM, your biotechnology, your advanced biotechnology. So let me get back out of that. There we go. Now, note when you read the term career cluster, think chapter. So we're going to keep moving forward from there. Also, before we move forward, just this year on August 22nd, 2016, TEA added to each of the 3 endorsement areas that we're discussing today that are specific to CTE, which are the STEM, the business and industry, and the public services, the caveat of career preparation 1 and 2 and problems and solutions from chapter 127. But here's the warning of this: they need to address a STEM related field. So if you have a child who would be in career preparation currently working, say, at Chick-fil-A, I'm not sure that that would be a viable course that would address, or a viable work environment that would address a STEM related field, versus if they were working as a pharmacy tech. Or an assistant, maybe answering phones at a pharmacy. Things like that might be able to be placed inside that STEM-related field. But if you have any questions about specific jobs that might apply to that, please contact our office here at Region 10. Option number 2. So for the second option for STEM is a coherent sequence of 4 credits in computer science selected from the following. Now, very simply, they'd have to come from these exact courses. There are no other courses other than the 13 labeled Roman numeral wise right here. We will find out later if they're going to add more for next year. But currently, these are the 13 courses for your second option. So that is the second option of 5 for earning a STEM. And it's separate. You don't have to do all these. You can use one, or you can do this, or there are another 3 options, the 3rd, 4th, and 5th. So think of these as separate options. They don't have to all be done together. That's one thing we got to focus on there, is they could earn a STEM endorsement by 3 credits in math by successfully completing Algebra 2 and 2 additional math courses for which Algebra 2 is a prerequisite by selecting courses from subsection E2 of the section. Now, what I'll do here is, let me move over here to we're going to move over here to our we're going to move to, excuse me, chapter 74 13, or actually 74, yeah, 74:13. Let me get into what we're talking about. So when they speak to that, and they speak directly to the classes, so a student may earn, and they come up to subchapter E, and here are those classes. So when we're talking about the science classes, we're talking specifically about the additional science credits. So you would select from chemistry, physics, aquatic science, excuse me, I need to go to math, don't I? Because we were talking about math. I get excited and get ahead of myself. I apologize. So the 4th credit in math would be earned Algebra 2. Once you've completed Algebra 2, it would be pre-calculus, advanced quantitative reasoning. These are the lists of different math classes that are allowable. The highlighted classes I have right here are actually CTE. These are the only 2 4th level currently setting math classes that are also for CTE credit. Engineering, math, and statistics and risk management. So let me get back to where we were at. Here we are. So for 3 credits in math by successfully completing Algebra 2 and then an additional math taking from E2, that's where you have to dig back into 74:12 or 74:13 to determine which math classes they're specifically speaking to. Now, 4 credits in science by successfully completing chemistry, physics, and 2 additional science courses by selecting courses from subsection E5 of this section. That's once again where you would go back to 74:13 E5, and it'll list out specific science classes that can be used once you have a student that has completed chemistry, physics, and 2 additional courses. Now with the 3 maths that are post Algebra 2, understand that for almost all scenarios, that's going to involve a student taking a total of 5 maths. Because if you noticed, Algebra 1 and geometry are not mentioned, but Algebra 1 and geometry must be taken. Now, the only way in which a student could not take 5 maths is if they took IP or IB Algebra 1. I caution you, I do not know, I have yet to encounter a group of students, and I say group, I'm not saying individuals, group of students who would enter the 9th grade ready to take an AP or an IB math class, or excuse me, Algebra 1. So that in itself would, or excuse me, science. Got ahead of myself there. When we talk about not math, but most students would take Algebra 1, followed by geometry, followed by Algebra 2, and 2 additional maths. Let me move over to science. I'm getting tongue-tied here. With science, they have to complete chemistry, physics, and 2 additional science courses. They can, and most of the time that's going to be a precursor based off of biology. Now, if a student takes an AP or an IB biology, they could essentially graduate with 4 sciences, not math. Pardon me for throwing that confusion in there. But for 4 credits in science, if you notice, it specifically states 4 credits in science, but we all know that most students are going to take biology, chemistry, physics, and then 2 additional courses to mean 5 courses in science. A student could effectively earn a STEM endorsement with 4 credits in science if they were to take IB or AP biology. I don't know of any students that are really ready for IB or AP biology in the 9th grade or even the 10th grade. So most students, 99% if not more, of our students in the state of Texas are going to end up going biology, followed by chemistry and physics, and then 2 additional science courses. If they want to earn a STEM endorsement with science. Back to math to re-clarify. 3 credits in math by successfully completing Algebra 2. They would also have to have Algebra 1 and geometry as they are prerequisites. So most students would take 5 maths. I have not seen a scenario where they would not take 5 maths in order to earn the STEM endorsement if that's the option they were using. In addition to Algebra 2, chemistry, and physics, a coherent sequence of 3 additional credits for no more than 2 categories or disciplines presented in subparagraphs A, B, C, and D. So what this means is, the student would take Algebra 2, chemistry, and physics, and a coherent sequence of 3 additional credits from no more than 2 categories. So if you wanted a student to come in and use science, they could use science combined with this, or they could use computer programming combined with this, because they come from these areas above. If you need clarification to that STEM package, let me know. Okay. Endorsements for business and industry. Business and industry, a student may earn a business and industry endorsement by completing the requirements specified in subsection E of this section. A coherent sequence of courses for 4 or more credits in CTE that consists of at least 2 credits in the same career cluster. And if you recall, we say chapter when we say cluster. So we want them to have at least 2 courses in the same career chapter or cluster, and at least 1 advanced CTE course, and that advanced CTE course is determined by the district themselves. And the courses may be selected from chapter 130 of this title, chapter 127 of this title, or CTE innovative courses approved by the commissioner. The final course in the sequence must be selected from the following. So that would be from chapter 130, subchapter A, or subchapter B or C, and we can go look at that. And when you click on this link, it will take you over to the TEA website, and there are the classes that we speak of. Now, if you noticed, it's stated in the verbiage from our slideshow that they needed 2 or more, at least 2 classes from the same cluster. So if you had a student who was going to take principles of agriculture and say equine science, well, we won't use equine science, that goes to a half a credit next year. Let's just use principles of agriculture and advanced animal science. If a student was to complete principles of agriculture as the prerequisite for advanced animal science, then the district could hold that this is the prerequisite and this is the advanced course as spoken to in the language from the from our slideshow. And we look back and we go, okay, so we had to have 2 classes. So if we took that, Principles of Ag and Advanced Animal Science, we could take any other 2 CTE classes. They don't even have to be mentioned in this chapter. What it says is a coherent sequence of 4 or more credits in CTE that consists of at least 2 courses in the same career cluster, at least 1 advanced. The courses may be selected from chapter 130. The final course in the sequence must be selected from one of the following. So if you had a student that was taking anything from your public services, save ROTC, which is not considered a CTE course, they could mix those two of those classes in with 2 of the classes from any of these subchapters and earn an endorsement in business and industry. One of the things that we want to do is we want to have a very well-rounded education for our students, and we don't need to make sure everything comes from a single subchapter when we're earning an endorsement. Now, that's not to mean you can't do that if that's what you feel is best for your students, but it is recommended by the powers that be, which would be the Texas Workforce Commission and other entities as such, as to allow for students to see a multitude of different career pathways as we're growing them through high school. So that they are career ready. They understand just as much about what they don't prefer as what they do prefer. Because we're learning that currently we have $1.261 trillion in student loan debt and $751 billion as of October in credit card debt as a country. So that means we hold $500 billion more in student loan debt than we do credit card debt. And college is a very expensive place to try to figure out what you want to do. So we're using House Bill 5 in order to educate our students in a much more meaningful manner than has been done in the past. So once again, you don't have to take everything from the same subchapter, and we highly encourage that you do not. So as we move forward for the business and industry endorsement, there are subchapter I, subchapter K. Let's take a look down here and get into subchapter K and see what is all in that. So when we get to subchapter K, that is information technology. So for information technology, a student could take principles of information technology and computer technician or computer programming. There are several districts out there right now that have wonderful, wonderful course guides that also have their coherent sequences established for students as well. So I encourage you to seek out information, see what other districts are doing, because there's some really great stuff out there by some really talented people in the outlying LEAs, local education agencies, which are districts or charters. Back to our slideshow, here we go. Now, once again, this one has the addition of career preparation 1 or 2 and problems and solutions from subchapter B of this title of the course addresses for the career field from chapter 127. Now, once again, anytime that you're going to use career prep 1 and 2 or problems and solutions, ensure that the class that is being taught or the job that is being done directly relates to one of these subchapters or clusters. So if you had a student that was in marketing or transportation, distribution, and logistics, I caution you on this one, because make sure that you are in compliance with the Texas Workforce Commission's rules if you have a 16 or 17-year-old, because you have to be 16 or older to be in career prep. But at the same time, there are specific rules related to students when it comes to transportation services, as they are not allowed to drive as part of their jobs, and that is specifically listed from the Texas Workforce Commission. And if you need help with that, please just contact me and I can send you the links to find that. Business and industry continued. The next way to earn a business industry endorsement is to earn 4 English credits by selecting courses from chapter 110 of this title. Include 3 levels in one of the following areas: public speaking, debate, advanced broadcast journalism, yearbook, advanced literary magazine or newspaper. I noticed that a lot of our schools have yearbook. This is a great pathway for a student to earn a business and industry endorsement if they were to stay 4 years in yearbook and journalism. And you can include your public speaking or your professional communications as part of that as well. So if you have any questions about that, please contact us. As we move forward here, we have 4 technology application credits by selecting from the following. Now you have to take them directly from these classes. You won't be able to mix and mingle. So if you were going to have a student earning a business and industry endorsement through the C option, because now we're on our 3rd option. Remember, we've already talked about A and B, and now we're on C, which is the technology applications credits. They would have to be taken directly from these classes. Everything that you're seeing in front of you right now was copied and pasted verbatim from chapter 7413 of the endorsement business and industry packages. And then lastly, a coherent sequence of 4 credits from subparagraph A, B, or C of this. So if we go back and look, I'll go all the way back to the beginning. A coherent sequence of classes taken from these subchapters or from any of these courses or from your technology application courses. So a coherent sequence of 4 credits from a combination of those 3 areas. It can earn you a business and industry endorsement for your students. Public services. Now, before we get started on this one, I want to add one extra deal here, and we'll talk about it again. This can be earned with an endorsement. This endorsement can be earned with JR, Junior ROTC, which is not a CTE course. That doesn't mean we don't hold it to be of a high value of a career pathway. It just doesn't fall under CTE, and I give that warning because you don't earn the additional funding for that course, but it is a very relevant course, and if you have it on your campus, you already know that. If you don't have it on your campus, you can contact me and I can get you in touch with persons that can explain how that process begins through the U.S. Army, Air Force, Navy, or Marines. And it is a process that is deemed or is controlled at a level outside of Region 10 or the TEA. So public services, a student may earn a public services endorsement by completing the requirements specified in subsection E of this section. So a coherent sequence of courses for 4 more credits in CTE that consist of at least 2 courses in the same career cluster. Now remember, that's chapter, and at least 1 advanced CTE course, and your district determines your advanced CTE courses. But I really want to get back to that language about 4 more credits that consist of at least 2 or more in the same career cluster. So if you had a child that took 2 classes, or a student that took 2 classes from education and training, and say you wanted to couple that with professional communications, equine science, which are both half-credit courses, and BIM, going into education and training, because that student wants to eventually become an ag teacher, that would be a wonderful way to do that. So you're only limited in your pathways here by your imagination, as long as you follow the basic rules of 4 CTE classes, 2 from the same career cluster, which is a chapter, and at least 1 advanced course named by your LEA, your local education agency, which is your district. Also, for public services, you can earn from subchapter H, health sciences, or human services, or public safety and corrections and security. And remember, forensic science, which is also a science core credit course, falls under this subchapter here. So career prep 1 or 2 are problems and solutions. Now, if you really look at that, the question would be, and I want to always stipulate, how do we meaningfully add career prep, a job, a student being paid? Because remember, career prep is paid for experience only. They have to have a job. So how do we do that as a paid for experience? Now, if they work at a daycare, and you're extending the classroom instruction over to where they're doing lesson plans and they're teaching toddlers a specific skill set, and you have them building a lesson plan that's compliant with your district, then that would be a wonderful career prep and practicum alternative for this particular endorsement. Government and public administration. I know that there are districts in our region, Dallas ISD is one of them, that has students that go out and do paid for government internships. with local and city government. I always encourage you to reach out to your Chamber of Commerce to try and create a joint venture of a similar nature, even if it's unpaid for through a practicum. Subchapter H of Health Sciences, or Subchapter J related to Human Services. Once again, I just want to say that if you're going to use career preparation in 1 and 2, I think they're wonderful. I think it's a great option. Let's just make sure we're doing something that really applies to students, or 4 courses, once again, in JROTC. This is the only coursework in this particular endorsement area that's not CTE. Okay. Endorsement add-ons as of August 22nd. And that's where they added, if you're wondering when that was added, to STEM, business and industry, and public services. It was 22 August of 2016. And that's when they released the latest and greatest copy of the 7411 through 14. So the Texas Administration Code, chapters 7411 through 14, is what covers what we consider our House Bill 5 foundation students, or any student who is elected to graduate under the foundation's program. Specifically by law, any student entering the 9th grade officially as of 2014 and thereafter is required to graduate under 7411 through 14 of the Texas Administrative Code. Any student who entered the 9th grade in 2012 or 13 has the option to graduate under 74.71 through 74.14 of the Texas Administrative Code, or they can opt for 7411 through 14, the foundations plan. Prior to that, which would mainly speak to your special ed students, any child who entered the 9th grade prior to the fall of 2012, so that would be the 2007-8 school year through the 2011-12 school year, would fall under chapters 7461 through 7464. And that would really probably be your special ed students, because that would be considered a 5th year, almost 21-year-old student, or excuse me, a 6th or 7th year at this point. Arts and humanities, I'm going to touch on this real fast. Even though they're not CTE, I just noticed that, I know that you were probably wanting to hear something about that. So with arts and humanities, there are several ways in which a student can earn an arts and humanities endorsement. So the first one, option number 1, is 5 social studies credits by selecting courses from chapter 113 of this title relating to the Texas Essential Knowledge and Skills for economics, with emphasis on free enterprise and benefits. Or option 2, selecting 4 levels of the same language in a language other than English. That would be, for instance, French 1 through French 4. Or 2 levels of the same language other than English and 2 levels of a different language. The example for this third option would be Spanish 1, Spanish 2, French 1, French 2, or German 1, German 2, Spanish 1, Spanish 2. I think you understand. The fourth option is 4 levels in American Sign Language. The fifth option is a coherent sequence of 4 credits by selecting courses from 1 or 2 categories or disciplines in fine arts from chapter 117 of this title, or innovative courses. And that would be classes such as art or theater and such. 4 credits, or 4 English credits by selecting from chapter 7413-4. That's where you would go back and reflect on the classes that were outlined in 7413-4. Let me make my way back over there. So if we go to our document, 7413-4, so here we are at 7413, and we come down to 4, 7413. It's going to be E4, so we go 7413. There's 2. Nope. We found that. I apologize. I'm struggling to find our 7413-4. So it's going to be specifically from 7413 subchapter 4. So we have E1, 4. Here we are. For that, it would be 4 English credits selected from English 4 independent studies, literary genres, creative writing, research and technical writing, humanities, community applications, communication applications, AP English Lit or Composition, AP English Language and Composition, and IB Language, and A1 higher level. So my apologies for the delay there. Let's get back from the current slide. Here we are. So with that being said, moving forward, endorsements, number 5, the lastly, we'll speak on multidisciplinary studies. A student may earn a multidisciplinary studies endorsement by completing the requirements specified in subsection E of this section. 4 advanced courses that prepare a student to enter the workforce successfully or post-secondary education without remediation from within one endorsement area or among endorsement areas that are not in a coherent sequence. 4 credits in each of the 4 foundation areas to include English 4, chemistry, and or physics. So this is your 4x4. 4 credits in advanced placement, international baccalaureate, or dual credit selected from English, math, science, social studies, economics, language other than English, or fine arts. So that concludes talking about all 5 of the endorsement areas. Let's talk about CTE crosswalk and where to locate the document, and CTE new TEKS to find the document that we're getting into here. Let's see here. I'm going to pause for a brief second. Okay. Let's talk about the CTE crosswalk for a second here. And specifically, let's talk about where to find that information. So we're on the screen here. This is the CTE website for Region 10. So I'm going to go back out and help you find it directly. So if you were to find our Region 10 Google site, which we'll soon be moving all this over to our Region 10, our new site, as we're going to be releasing our new website soon for Region 10. But if you type in Region 10 and CTE from the Google page, and then go to our homepage, you'll see a picture of myself and Eon. And you'll click on our Google site. All of the documents that were spoken on today are uploaded onto the Google site here. The slideshow and the different documents that I've used to create that slideshow. When we're talking about specifically the crosswalk document, that is this document here, and this one will be used. Let me try and zoom in here. Here we go. This document will be used to tell you what we're teaching this year and what we're going to be teaching next year. So if you're wondering where our credits are going from a CTE standpoint, what the credits will look like going into the future, that is the CTE crosswalk document. And there are some classes, there are actual, there's a legend for this that speaks directly to what the asterisks are. This course must be taken concurrently with, so if you see an asterisk, there should be a legend nearby that'll explain that. One of the critical things that I've had brought to my attention recently is the concern about career prep and practicum classes for next year, and the language on how we're going to determine how that is set up. Because it used to be we would follow it under one service ID code. Let me get back out of here for a second. I'm sorry, let me pause for 1 second here. Let's see what you all see. Okay, so with the crosswalk document, let me get back to that. No. There we go. Okay, so with the crosswalk document, especially when we start talking about career preparation 1 and 2, one of the things that's of a concern is where's the language going to be for how those classes are coded, and how those classes, what's the time frame or the time limits. So currently when we take a career prep 1 or career prep 2, it's a single code that we place the class under, and the student who is in the class for what equals 45 minutes or more per day, and coupled with 1 hour or 2 hours average, which is 10 to 15 or 15 plus hours per week. So if you're going to award a kid 2 credits as of now, it'd be under one service code, and less than 15 hours would earn them 2 credits, and more than 15 hours would earn them 3 credits. Well, in the future, what will happen is the student will take a career prep 1 if they're going to earn 2 credits. So if you had a kid that was working about 12 hours a week, you'd place them in the career prep 1. They would do their job. They would still follow the same protocols as the teacher going out for visitations and such. And the student would be awarded 2 credits. If that student was going to be working 15 plus hours, you'd place them in an additional class called Extended Career Preparation, which is coupled with Career Prep 1 or Career Prep 2, and issue them a total of 3 credit hours based off of the 15 hours plus work. Now, at first, TEA had placed the guidelines for that inside the new TEKS, and they have since edited those out. And the TEKS, the guidance for that is not going to be in the TEKS. The guidance for career prep and practicum is still going to be housed in Chapter 5 of the Student Attendance Accountability Handbook. And that's where we currently go to deal with anything that is CTE and attendance. If you have not read Chapter 5 of the Student Attendance Accountability Handbook, I highly, highly encourage you to read Chapter 5 of the Student Attendance Accountability Handbook, as it is extremely helpful and will increase your knowledge base. So with that being said, I'm going to show you one more document here from our from the Region 10 Google site. And what that document is the Academic Core Classes document. And it has links to help you find certifications. It lists the 18 core CTE classes. There is 1 English, 5 mathematics, and 12 science, with a total of 14 science service codes, because scientific research and design is actually scientific research and design 1, 2, and 3. So there is actually a total of 14 classes. I just house all the scientific research and design under one column there. And then there's an additional fine arts, and it is Introduction to Floral Design. And it'll allow for a fine arts credit. And there's guidance on page 2 of this document as to what courses are required for, if any, for teachers that are teaching these core classes. So that will do it for today's webinar. If you have any questions, let me get back over to our slideshow so you can show you my email address. Please make sure you contact us if you have any questions about anything that was covered today or need any clarification. My email address is travis.waddell@region10.org, and my phone number is 972-348-1334. Please do not hesitate to call me to ask for any clarification on the basics here that we went over for Chapter 7413 of the Texas Administrative Code. Have a wonderful day, and thank you.